Police in Hong Kong arrest and then release on bail two well-known activists. Well, after 3 months of protests, the authorities are banning a rally planned for Saturday. There's growing anger at the British Prime Minister for suspending Parliament to push through Brexit. He faces 3 court cases aiming to challenge that move. And days after he stepped down, Italy's ex-premier Giuseppe Conte accepts the role of Prime Minister designate in a bid to hold together a new left-leaning coalition. Welcome back to the France 24 newsroom in Paris. I'm Tom Burgess-Wilson. Thank you very much for joining us. We begin in Hong Kong, where the police have released and granted bail to 2 well-known activists who were arrested earlier on Friday. Police say that Joshua Wong and Agnes Chow are being investigated for their part in an unauthorized protest back in June. Well, activists say the arrests bear the hallmarks of mainland China, saying they're designed to suffocate dissent. Well, the former British colony has been rocked by 3 months of violent unrest, but the authorities appear to be running out of patience now. As well as these arrests, a major rally planned for Saturday has been banned by the police on security grounds. France 24's Shirley Sitbon has this update.
Joshua Wong and Agnes Chow are out, released on bail. The leader of the Demosisto pro-democracy movement and one of its prominent activists were arrested in the morning, suspected of taking part in an unauthorized protest.
We shall not surrender. And I urge international communities to send a clear message to President Xi. Sending troops or using emergency ordinance is not the way out. We will continue our fight no matter how they arrest and prosecute us.
While Chow and Wong were released on bail, a pro-democracy MP, Chang Chung-tai, was reportedly arrested. Meanwhile, Andy Chan, the head of a small independence party, arrested on Thursday, is still detained. 3 months after the protest movement started to counter a law allowing authorities to send suspects for trial in mainland China, police are clamping down on protesters. They've banned a demonstration expected to draw massive crowds on Saturday.
Our objection is in the interest of public safety and public order, as well as protections of rights and freedom of others.
Saturday's protest was meant to be symbolic. Exactly 5 years ago, Hong Kong pro-democracy activists asked for democratic elections, and Chinese authorities rejected the plan. That led to the umbrella movement. The organizers of Saturday's protest canceled it due to concerns for participants' safety. The semi-autonomous region will wait to see if other activists defy the plan.
Now, parts of Pakistan came to a standstill on Friday as tens of thousands of people took to the streets in solidarity with Kashmir. Well, the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has called for demonstrations. At a rally in the capital, Islamabad, he slammed New Delhi over its decision to revoke the autonomy of Indian-administered Kashmir. France 24's Claire Rush has more.
Traffic grinds to a halt in Islamabad as thousands march and chant. On Friday, Pakistanis responded to the call of Prime Minister Imran Khan, who had urged people across the country to stop whatever they were doing for half an hour to show support for Kashmiris. In a speech, Khan slammed his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi over his decision to revoke the autonomy of Indian-administered Kashmir.
Today, if the world doesn't stand against Narendra Modi's fascist and racist government in support of the Kashmiri people, its effects will be felt all over the world.
Friday's rallies came the same day Khan published an editorial in the New York Times as part of his campaign to bring attention to Indian-administered Kashmir. The disputed region has been on lockdown for nearly a month. Most telephone lines and television networks are blocked, along with the internet, and thousands of Indian troops have been deployed there. Thousands of people have reportedly been detained, and residents have accused security forces of carrying out beatings and torture, according to media reports. Kashmir is divided between India and Pakistan, which both rule parts of the Himalayan territory. The two countries have contested the region since independence from the British in 1947.
Now, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced earlier this week that he'll suspend Parliament for more than 1 month ahead of the Brexit deadline, which looms exactly 2 months from now. Well, the move, which Johnson argues gives Britain more negotiating power with Brussels, has angered his opponents, and it raises the stakes in what is the country's most serious political crisis in decades. However, 3 court cases, one in Scotland, one in Northern Ireland and one in England, have already been filed to challenge that move. The former British Prime Minister, Sir John Major, has joined one of those legal challenges. France 24's Benedict Pavio in London has the details on those legal cases.
There are, as you say, 3 legal challenges here in the courts. So you've got one in England, one in Scotland and one in Northern Ireland. We have 62 days only to go before the 31st of October. A Prime Minister who said, as he was seeking the leadership of the Conservative Party and the Prime Ministership, that it would be do or die. The United Kingdom would leave the EU 27 by or on the 31st of October. So let me concentrate first on the one that took place today, and that is the Scottish court case, which was about getting an emergency order against the suspension of Parliament. And that was led by Joanna Cherry, a Scottish National Party MP, on behalf of 75 MPs and peers. So there will be great relief in 10 Downing Street at the fact that this was rejected, this emergency injunction. Let me quote a government spokeswoman briefly. As we have set out, the government needs to bring forward a strong domestic legislative agenda, and MPs are not prevented, says the spokeswoman, from scrutinising our withdrawal from the EU. We are glad the court found against the interim suspension or interdict being granted. There was no good reason, she says, to seek one, given the full hearing is due to take place next week, and the process of bringing the session to an end will not start until the week commencing the 9th of September. Now, what's interesting is the substantive hearing was due to take place anyway, next Friday, 6th of September. And what the judge has done today is he's fast-tracked it. He's brought it forward to Tuesday, the 3rd of September, and that'll be interesting, and of course we'll be watching that Tuesday morning. Another one here in London has been brought by the businesswoman and anti-Brexit activist campaigner Gina Miller. What is significant about that, again trying to stop this proroguing of Parliament, is she has been joined today in that effort by a former Conservative Prime Minister, none other than Sir John Major. So a very high-profile case. We understand from Gina Miller that will go ahead next Thursday here in London, and then there's a court case in Northern Ireland. So 3 distinct challenges in 3 of the 4 nations that make up the United Kingdom.
France 24's Benedict Pavio reporting from London. Now, just days after he stepped down, Italy's ex-premier Giuseppe Conte has now accepted the role of Prime Minister designate. That's in a bid to hold together a new coalition between the populist Five Star Movement and the centre-left Democratic Party. Well, the 2 political foes have joined forces in a bid to keep the right-wing leader, Matteo Salvini, out of power. But many analysts are asking, just how long can this new coalition last? France 24's Colin Kinborough has more.
The 3rd largest economy in the Eurozone is on hold, with a growth rate of 0 in the first half of this year. Youth unemployment climbs upwards of 30%, roughly double the European average. Trade tensions between the United States and China have been a further drag, hitting Italy's industrial north, which is heavily dependent on exports. In the south, a lack of jobs and strained infrastructure have pushed tens of thousands of people away. The country also faces significant debt. At 134% of GDP, it has the 2nd highest rate in the Eurozone after Greece. The first test for Giuseppe Conte's government, then, will be the vote on Italy's 2020 budget, a vote that Brussels will be watching closely.
We're just a few weeks ahead of the parliamentary session for the budget. We must start working on a budget law that can avoid the VAT increase, that will protect savings, and that can guarantee growth and social development.
Rome's hands are already tied when it comes to finances. Last December, Conte's government narrowly avoided EU sanctions with a last-minute budget agreement, promising to bring down deficits. If Italy's deficit exceeds its target of just over 2%, a safeguard clause will kick in, raising sales taxes. This leaves Conte's government without much room for maneuver as it works to put the economy back on track. The government reshuffle may well send Conte back to Brussels to negotiate for more flexibility. Whether EU officials will be more receptive to his new pro-European coalition is an open question.
Now, on Wednesday, around 100 migrants were rescued from a dinghy just off the coast of Libya, where Italy maintains its ban on migrant ships from docking at ports. But the Italian Coast Guard has transferred women and children to the island of Lampedusa. However, about 34 other migrants remain aboard the rescue vessel. For the past year, Italy has run a closed port policy to try and stem illegal immigration from North Africa. France 24's Cole Stangler has this update for us.
Late Thursday night, a group of migrants disembark from a small rescue boat on the island of Lampedusa. Some 22 children under the age of 10, along with 26 women. All of them rescued by the Mare Jonio, which picked them up off the Libyan coast on Wednesday. But the vessel's other passengers face a more uncertain future, waiting in international waters as the Italian government maintains its ban on ships carrying migrants from docking at its ports. On Friday, the NGO operating the Mare Jonio repeated its request to dock.
The lack of water suitable for hygienic use and for other basic necessities on board is particularly worrying. We would like to point out that this kind of emergency cannot be helped by simply sending bottled water to the vessel.
The drama is a familiar one. Earlier this month, another rescue ship, the Open Arms, was also blocked from docking in Italy, spending 19 days at sea before a prosecutor ordered its emergency landing, and a group of European nations agreed to take in the migrants on board. On Friday, a Spanish warship carrying 15 of those migrants arrived on Spain's southern coast. Despite the high-profile showdowns, migrant arrivals to Europe by sea have fallen by about a third over the last year.
Now, space will not be an Achilles heel for the United States. Those are the words of President Donald Trump as he launched a new command center dedicated to warfare in space. Well, US military officials have warned that China and Russia are working hard to erode America's advantage beyond planet Earth. France 24's Peter O'Brien tells us more.
Launching into space warfare. The new United States Space Command has been unveiled.
As the newest combatant command, SpaceCom will defend America's vital interests in space, the next warfighting domain. And I think that's pretty obvious to everybody. It's all about space.
The old US Space Command was disbanded in 2002 after the armed forces changed priorities in the wake of 9/11. Now it's returned as the US's 11th Defense Command. Its mission includes military support such as GPS, protecting American satellites and preventing missiles. It will also begin to develop combatants which can operate in space. But it's not the same as the Space Force, which Donald Trump wants as a dedicated branch of the military, equal to the Army, Navy and Air Force.
Work in space. I said, maybe we need a new force. We'll call it the Space Force. And I was not really serious. And then I said, what a great idea. Maybe we'll have to do that.
This would be far more ambitious and expensive, and it first needs congressional approval. Some in the Pentagon, including the former Defense Secretary James Mattis, say a Space Force would be unnecessary and create more bureaucracy. The Defense Department, on the other hand, says it's a strategic imperative for space not to become an Achilles heel for the US.
Well, that brings us up to date with the world news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us here on France 24.